concentrate on Chandler with KPLC. Wrong? Okay. Thank you all. I know that KPLC for sure and the American Press have been waiting for us to give them an update. This case was a little complicated from the beginning because our victim was burned pretty severely. And I think that was not by accident. I think it was obviously on purpose, because I think they thought it would take us a lot longer than it did to identify the body. He was burnt pretty badly, and it did enable us, but our crime lab, which was, again, not just to the detectives, but our crime lab, our detectives, they have not stopped since last Wednesday when we found the body. And I say that because I've said before, and I think as I explained the case to you, we don't care the status of any citizen in Calcasieu Parish. When we have a homicide here, we're going to do everything we can that is in our power to solve this murder. And I say that because would-be murderers, criminals that want to come to this parish and do this activity need to understand that we're going to give 110% no matter what it is, no matter who they are, no matter what the circumstances. Our victim in this particular case is Zacharias, or we call him Zach Burton. On Wednesday at approximately 5 p.m., the sheriff's office was dispatched at the dead end of D. Williams Road, which is off of Rigmaiden Cemetery Road in the DeQuincy area, just outside the city limits in DeQuincy. The body was badly burned. Obviously, I know the KPLC came out that night, and we basically processed portions of the scene that night, and then the next day went back out and canvassed and processed more of the scene. In this particular case, it did take us a couple days to identify the body, which kind of slows us down in a sense, because that's really from the point we can start looking back and figuring out that he's not from here, he's from the Baton Rouge area. So then we have to start backtracking, how did he get here, why is he here, and putting all those pieces together. So there's going to be some things that I leave out, and that's going to be on purpose because we're still not finished with the investigation. As you'll see in just a few minutes, we do have a warrant out for one gentleman's arrest, and we're probably going to make some more arrests. And the reason I say probably is because we are waiting for other articles of evidence to come in that we have processed from the scene that had mixed DNA. And of course, I'm not a DNA analyst, but I keep in close contact with them, and especially on a case like this. Several articles of evidence that we found at the scene have mixed DNA on them. Some we know for a fact is our victims, but others we know are from somebody else. Well, those are the articles. Our lab, we don't separate. In other words, if we get a mixed DNA mixture, we do not separate at our lab. We can only find, if we have a single DNA, we can obviously figure it out, which is how we found our victim, by the way, and the identity of our victim. So I know I'm not talking in scientific terms, but basically we sent the other articles of the mixed DNA mixture to another lab that is got the proper equipment that can extract that now and give it to us. So my plea is to the other two suspects that we believe are involved in this, they probably would want to turn themselves in and give their side of the story now rather than later, because I think we're going to end up eventually coming to knock on their door again in the very near future. So with that said, Judge Wyatt has signed a warrant. This is where we found the body at the dead end of D. Williams Road. It's a dead end road off of Rigmaiden Cemetery Road. I think I already told you all that, but this is an actual outlay. The city limits is just up the road. The DeQuincy area is up in this area, just to give you an idea. And then this is our suspect, Nathaniel Mitchell III from Iowa. Surprisingly enough, he got on a plane and went to St. Louis Sunday morning. I think he realized we were closing in and decided he didn't want to be in Calcasieu Parish anymore. So we have the authorities in St. Louis actively seeking him. His name's been entered into NCIC, so I think it's just a matter of time we'll catch up to him, or some authority will catch up to him, and we'll be able to arrest him. As far as the other ones, right now, I think it's just a little premature evidence-wise that we don't feel like we had enough to make the other arrest at this moment. But I do think that hopefully will be coming shortly. So we know the manner of death was not caused by the fire. We think that was, and I'm not going to give the cause of death at this moment. We think that was purely to hide the identity of the person. Again, hopefully at some other point, when I come back to you, I can lay this out to you, because it is very interesting. They have been to Baton Rouge. The East Baton Rouge Parish Sheriff's Office helped us. When we found out who he was, then we had to start backtracking his tracks. He ended up getting a bus basically to Calcasieu Parish, we believe, to commit some illegal activity with these suspects, or at least this suspect and some others that we believe are involved. And for whatever reason it went bad, and our victim ended up dead. Again, without getting into the meat of the whole investigation, they basically have been all over Calcasieu Parish, to Baton Rouge and back, and just going through evidence and things of evidentiary value to us. And finally, last night, we're able to piece together, or early this morning, we're able to piece together and get an arrest warrant for our Mitchell. So with that said, I'll take any questions on this, and then we'll get into the next case if you want to.
I see on Nathaniel Mitchell, he has a fairly extensive criminal history. Was he, at the time of this incident, out on probation or parole or anything?
No, he was not.
Okay. Do we know how far back his most recent history might have been?
I don't know the answer to that. Beth, where you at? His last conviction was 2012.
And on the victim, I know you might not be able to say everything, but did he have any other connections here that you know of, or family, other than just coming here to?
No, I don't think he has any.
Just
oddly enough, and that's why I kind of mentioned at the beginning that it doesn't matter who you are. He has no connection here.
Okay.
Nobody, I believe, and we believe just by talking, that nobody was really looking for him. I think that they tried to cover this up, thinking it would take somebody a little while to figure out he was missing and gone, and until we show up knocking on doors in Baton Rouge with the East Baton Rouge Sheriff's Office, I think we surprised them, and I think that worked to our advantage in one case. And I give that solely to our DNA experts here for getting that for us quickly, because they were able to get an identity of the body. We would not have gotten fingerprints. The tattoos, we knew he had tattoos, but they were unrecognizable. I mean, he was burnt badly. So.
And the other two suspects, I know you can't say too much, but they're connected with him and from this area, or?
They're connected with him,
okay,
yes.
That's what I meant.
Mr. Mitchell,
yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
What's the connection to DeQuincy?
You know, that's a good question. We can put them together, again, without saying too much, but we haven't figured that out yet. I think to exchange illegal activity. I think it was a matter of coming here to engage in a specific illegal activity, which we have a theory. We don't know for sure. I think that's working its way through the process also. And there could be other theories, but we have one strong theory that we believe is going on. And so with that said, why DeQuincy? I don't think we have a definitive answer for that. I think we're curious about that too. I think there are people that can answer it for us, and we're hoping they do. And that's why I said, you know, I think it's just a matter of time before we get the evidence that we need back, and then we're going to be knocking on some people's door again. I think it's to their advantage to minimize their involvement now, if they choose to. If not, we'll do it the hard way. So we're used to working hard. They've been working hard since last Wednesday. They're not going to stop, and we'll continue on. we won't stop till it's resolved completely, so. Any other questions about this one? All right, so yesterday, we get a call off of Goodman Road, and I don't think we put the map, but it's actually not too far from here, on a welfare of a 2-month-old little baby. Once they got there, the house was extremely dirty, no running water, no formula for the child, roaches, flies, just a very, very unhealthy, dirty environment for a child, drugs, and these 3 particular people were in the care and custody of this child. 2 are the parents and 1 is the grandparent. They were all arrested. As you can see, their bonds. I believe Ms. Thibodeau is the grandparent, and I think she was charged with just the illegal of CDS in the presence of a juvenile. The others were charged with the 2nd-degree cruelty and the use of CDS in the presence of a juvenile. So Crystal Roberts and Herbert Thibodeau are the parents, and we believe we believe all 3 are responsible. They all lived at the house and should have arranged that the baby was better taken care of. Literally, the hospital and caretakers that took the baby had to take the soiled diaper off the baby that was just almost, as sad as it seems, stuck to the baby. It had been so long, and this baby was just not being taken care of. And we're lucky, I guess, we don't have a homicide that we're dealing with rather than a cruelty to a juvenile. So it always saddens us when we have a child that cannot fend for themselves, that's relying on adults to take care of them, that absolutely, again, I can tell you the problem is drugs are more important to them than the care of this child, if you want to know a motive. And I could say a lot, but it wouldn't be appropriate. So it's just a shame that people are allowed to have children like this, and hopefully this child will get the medical attention it needs, and hopefully a foster parent or someone will take care of this baby, and it can be maybe taken away from these parents and somehow have a normal life, if that's possible, in our society. But she's not getting off to a very good start at this time. Yes, ma'am.
There were no other children there, just the 2-month-old?
No, there were no other children in the home.
Okay.
If there is a blessing.
And did any of those 3 have, well, I'm trying to look at the
I didn't look.
previous
Do
charges.
they have criminal histories, any of them?
Minor criminal histories.
Oh, okay.
Minor, you said? Okay. All of them?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Do you know how the child is doing now?
You checked on the child today? And?
She's doing good. She's in the care and custody of DCFS at this time.
Great thing about young children like that is they're tough. They're a lot tougher than we think they are. I understand at the hospital sucked down a few ounces of milk pretty quickly. I think the poor child was just being starved, and like I said, there was no formula, no running water. Just terrible conditions. It's really sad. All right, any more questions? I appreciate y'all coming and doing this for us today. And if we have any more in the near future on the homicide, we'll certainly do another release and see if there's anything else that develops. I suspect there will be. I don't know if it's going to take. I know Monica, our DNA analyst from the lab, said it could be another 2 or 3 days. It could be another week before we even get those results back. So we're hoping for the latter, but or the earlier. But if it's latter than it is, we'll have to. Now we have to deal with the time frame of getting our evidence back and figuring out. Yes, I do. Thank you. Let me say this: the state fire marshal, especially the state fire marshal. When we were out there that night, the fire marshal said we were trying to figure out how long this body had been there, and the body's so badly burned we have no clue. he literally said about noon, and I can tell you, through our investigation, when I tell you he and the coroner were spot on, of course that's why they do what they do, they were extremely accurate on the time of death, and the evidence shows that for us. So we have a really good timeline of when we believe things started to happen and what happened, which helped us in this investigation. Of course, the coroner's office, DeQuincy Police Department came out, even though it was outside the city limits, and helped us. We had a theory early on that maybe didn't pan out, but they were there with us and willing to help and do what they could. And the East Baton Rouge Sheriff's Office was tremendous with us, with going out with us in East Baton Rouge to track down some next of kin and some people that were very important to us as far as starting to track and backtrack our victim from when he at least left Baton Rouge and then got to Calcasieu Parish. All right. No more other questions. I appreciate it. Thank y'all.